All right, good afternoon and welcome back. Today we're going to start Chapter 15, Section 2. We're going to talk about art and culture in Heian. Heian is going to be the capital of Japan, where you're going to see basically the emperor and his nobles. And this is a painting that would have come out of that time. Now, Japanese nobles create great art. The nobles who followed Japan's emperor to Heian wanted to win his favor by living close to him. In Heian, these nobles created an imperial court, or a group of nobles who live near and serve or advise the ruler. And they are going to become the elite of society in Japan, and they're going to act that way. Members of noble court had little to do with the common people of Heian, and they lived lives of ease and privilege and called themselves dwellers among the clouds because they rarely ever came into contact with common people. They loved beauty and elegance and were great supporters of the arts. They became a great center for culture and learning. Now, the period between 794 and 1185 was a golden age of the arts in Japan. You can see a painting, a Japanese painting. Now, fashion. The nobles' love of beauty began with their own appearances, and they had magnificent wardrobes full of silk robes and gold jewelry, and you're seeing in the painting showing the types of wardrobes they would be wearing. The women wore 12 layers of colored silk cut to show many layers at one time. And to complete their outfits, they carried decorative fans, and this would be the fan here. And you think of it today, it's those fans that like fold up into something small. That was a Japanese invention. The fans were painted with birds, flowers, and trees, and many attached flowers and long silk cords to their fans. They wanted to make it look as stylish and as beautiful as possible. Now, literature. In addition to how they looked, they also took great care with how they spoke and wrote. Writing was popular amongst the nobles, especially the women, and they often kept diaries and journals about their lives at court, and they made sure to choose their words carefully to make their writing beautiful. So they would write about their daily lives and the things that were going on in the court, but they were trying to make it as artistic as possible. Unlike the men, the women typically wrote in Japanese, so many of the greatest works of early Japanese literature were written by women. One of the greatest writers in early Japanese history was Lady Murasaki Shikibu, and this is her right here, a painting of her. Around 1000, she wrote The Tale of Genji, which is considered by many to be the world's first full-length novel, and many readers consider it one of the best as well. Now, The Tale of Genji is about a prince on his quest for love and meets women from many different social classes, and many consider this to be one of Japan's greatest novels, like I said. The characters are very colorful and seem real, and her writing is clear and simple but graceful at the same time. And she describes court life in Japan with great detail. So not only is this a great literary masterpiece, it also gives a true look into what court life in Japan was like. And here are a couple of the paintings from The Tale of Genji. Most early Japanese prose was written by women, but both men and women wrote poetry. Nobles loved to read and write poems, and some nobles even held parties where they took turns writing poems and then reading them aloud to each other. Poems from this time only had 5 lines and had to have a set amount of syllables, and most were about love or nature. Now, visual art. Besides literature, Japan's nobles also loved visual art as well. So they didn't just love writing and they didn't love poetry and literature alone. They also loved to see paintings and things like that as well. The most popular art forms of the period were painting, architecture, and calligraphy. In their paintings, the nobles of Heian liked bright, bold colors, and they liked paintings that illustrated stories. Many of the paintings of this time illustrate scenes from literature, and others show scenes from nature or court life. Many artists painted on doors and furniture instead of on paper. Another popular form of art was calligraphy or decorative writing, and that would be what you're seeing here. So it's the writing, but they're making it very elegant looking to make it as nice as possible. Calligraphers spent hours carefully copying poems. They wanted the poems to look as beautiful as they sounded. All right, architecture. The nobles of Heian worked to make their city beautiful. They greatly admired Chinese architecture and modeled Heian after the Chinese capital, Shangong. They copied the Chinese style of building temples with wood frames that curved slightly upward and left the wood frames alone to look more natural. And then they had thatched roofs to look natural as well. They liked airy designs in their other buildings. Most buildings were made of wood with tiled roofs and large open spaces inside, and surrounded them with elegant gardens and ponds. And you'll still see that today. Japanese gardens are some of the most famous types of gardens around the world. Now, the performing arts. The roots of Japanese drama can be traced back to Heian period. People often gathered to watch performances by musicians, jugglers, and acrobats. Especially popular were the plays in which actors skillfully mimicked other people. These performances eventually became more serious forms of drama called no. Created in the 1300s, no plays combined music, speaking, and dance, and often told stories about great heroes or figures from Japan's past. So these became culturally iconic plays that they would put on. Religion became something of an art form in Heian, and the nobles' religion reflected their love of elaborate rituals. Most of the common people in Japan, although just as religious, did not have the time or money for these elaborate rituals. You know, these elaborate rituals might take hours. They would do all these different things, and it was basically kind of this giant show. And people who were working and trying to make, basically keep their livelihood, they typically didn't have time for this, but the nobles did. As a result, different forms of Buddhism formed in Japan. A new form of Buddhism was popular with Japan's common people and was called Pure Land Buddhism, and required no special rituals. Instead, they chanted the Buddha's name over and over again to achieve an enlightened state. All right, last part. In the 1100s, another popular new form arrived from China called Zen. Zen Buddhists believed that neither faith nor good behavior led to wisdom. Instead, people seeking wisdom should practice self-discipline and meditation, and that's what we see here. This guy is meditating. These ideas appealed to many Japanese, especially warriors. You know, because warriors, they wanted to be focused. So if they could go into this trance-like state and this extreme state of focus, they thought that could make them better warriors. As these warriors gained more influence in Japan, so did Zen Buddhism. So Zen Buddhism is going to become very popular because of the fact that the warriors were really behind it. Now, that's the end of Chapter 15, Section 2. You got any questions, get a hold of me. Make sure you're doing the readings and getting the assignments completed. Have a great day.